page 65 of the Rav Friedland, the Daas Tevunos. We're still in Ayin Ches, paragraph Ayin Ches. We're talking about the Guf and the Neshama. A person can introduce himself as Mr. or Mrs. Guf, and Guf is made from Hester Panim, and the way you act is the way God will run you and will run the world. The more Mr. Gufs and Mrs. Gufs there are in the world, the more Hester Panim comes in the world. Guf is made from Hester Panim, and you can bring Hester Panim, Chas v'shalom. The more the Shama, the more Ha'aras Panim comes into the world. We're going to try to read about a page today, see if we can do this. The Ramchal is going to talk about the concepts that we've summarized in the last few days. And this is a very general, big rule, important rule. The way a human being limits his thinking, we limit our thinking. We have the ability to limit our thinking based upon what we like to think about. If there's a certain subject we like to think about, we think about it. If there are areas that we're really not interested in, or we simply don't understand and don't enjoy, we don't think of it. People make their own boundaries, and inside the boundaries of what they want to think is based upon what they desire. Halaitiri. Take a look. Hanar hakoten lo yakem mahi hachachma v'lo yis'ave le'klal ela adarabba kol tinik barech mibeis hasefer. You can take a child and you can sit the child down and you say, I'd like to read a Rabbi Akiva Eiger with you. You're not really interested, not that he can really understand it anyways, but you tell him, let's go to the toy store and let's get a toy. He's really interested. And you perk his interest. Why? Because that's what's important in his mind. Now, there are people that mature, and at some point, they stop thinking about toys, and they start thinking about Game Boys. And then they mature beyond Game Boys, and they want a PlayStation. And they mature beyond the PlayStation, and then they want a car, and they want a motorcycle. Depends how your she'ifas, what are your ambitions, how your ambitions grow. So you can take a little child and watch the little child mature. The little child may grow up to want more and more toys, bigger toys, more expensive toys. He used to have a box of 30 Matchbox cars, and now he likes to have a collection of antique cars. But the taiva didn't change. It just became a little boy's car to a big boy's car. So a person matures, and hopefully he gives up those silly things that he desired as a child, and he steigt. He says, you know what I really want to do? I want to understand a Gemara. I want to understand Chumash. I want to understand physics. I can become a physicist. I want to understand biology so I can become a biologist. I want to become a doctor so I can heal people. A person's she'ifas grow, and he's no longer interested in toys. Children run away from school. Baruch Hashem, today we've created schools where a lot of times children love to go to school, and that's a great thing. But Chazal have a mashal that they give in different places. Children run away from school. They got better places to go. They like to go out to recess and play. And a child thinks that the only thing that's good and important are those toys and games that he's involved in. Again, look at that word havolim, silliness. Next week, we're going to get into the Rambam Hilchos Tshuva about havolim. Hevel havolim amar kaheles, havel havolim hakol havel. When a person increases his intellectual capacity and broadens his mind, he'll he'll start desiring understanding and information that's beyond what the rules of monopoly are. And according to this process, a person will constantly be able to elevate himself based upon what his she'ifas are. And this is not only true for man, it's true for all mankind. When there were generations of people who were steeped in intellectual pursuits, that's what they were interested in. I love dafka Torah. We're talking about a person interested. The most important thing to him is gaining a better understanding of life, get a better understanding of some science so that he can help people. And of course, the person wants to get a better understanding of the world himself through learning Torah. But the pursuit is in Chachma. Pursuit is not in the convertible. So when people desire that, where did they plant their 2 feet? Neshama. I miss the neshama. And therefore, the Rebbeinu Shalom sent them the ha'ara to be able to fulfill. The Gemara says, "B'derech she'adam writes a leilech melichan I," famous Gemara. The path that a person chooses for himself, God will make plenty of opportunities for him to tread that path. You pick the path, you will find that that path will have plenty of opportunities to fulfill the path that you choose. So if you're going to choose that path, you're going to find plenty of stuff along the road. If you choose the path of guf, boy, we all know you can travel down that road, go from mall to mall, from store to store, from Amazon to Amazon, from eBay to eBay. You can spend your whole day looking, pricing, comparing, buying, returning, and do it all day. But when people are focused on Chachma, doesn't mean you're learning 24/7. Person has to be able to walk out, he has to be able to rest his brain, he has to have leisure time, no question about that. But when the focus of his life becomes Chachma, Chachma is going to bring Neshama, Ha'ara, into your life. Ukshe'ein sichla mushba, and when their seichel is not mushba, it's not very interested in Chachma, it's interested in all kinds of other pursuits. Again, Hevel. A person gets lost in the silliness of life. If you read the Mesilas Yesharim, at the beginning of Mesilas Yesharim says this whole world, whichever way you turn, right, left, front, back, there's a cat. I'm using a modern day term. There's a catalog there. Everywhere you turn, there's a catalog. There's a catalog for furniture. There's a catalog for clothing. There's a catalog for cars. There's a catalog for appliances. There's a catalog. Mesilas Yesharim says, wherever you turn, there's a path on it that can lead you to the Havel Havol and completely lead you astray. No matter which way you turn, the Ramchal says, there are Nisyonos on that path. And you can get lost in this Hevel. Again, we're going to see an amazing Rambam about this concept of Hevel Bli Neder next week. This evil came into the world after the Chet of Adam Rishon, which we talked about on Monday. Chet of Adam Rishon, we read the Psukim. Chava saw the tree. It was a beautiful tree. It was a desirous tree. So what did Chava introduce herself to be? Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm Mrs. Guf, and I want to follow my eyes. So Rebbeinu Shalom said, okay, follow your eyes, follow your Guf. Now get into the field and start working with your Guf in the field and your Guf is Guf. Guf, you're interested in Guf, okay. You're going to have Guf. Your childbirth will be pain to Guf. This is not punishment. This is, you're going to sleep in the bed you chose. You want Guf, you'll live Guf. You want Neshama, you live Neshama. This Ra, this evil came into the world and has progressed, unfortunately, because Adam Harishon and Chava on that day, they made a conscious decision that they'd like to check it out. Let's check this fruit out. Today they call it a bucket list. Let's experience everything, experiential. Let's give it a try. But God said it will kill you. I don't think anybody who does this bucket list business puts the piece of paper in a bucket and said, before I go, I'd like to take a taste of cyanide. I want to see what it tastes like. And I want to see, does cyanide really kill? It's my bucket list. One of the things I want to do is I want to take a little cyanide. Nobody does that because everybody knows it's a death knell. So why do people put in their bucket list, I'd like to experience the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra? Well, it's cyanide. God told you it's cyanide. You don't trust God. You don't trust God. You want to experience it. God said, don't experience it. I'm telling you, it's no good. You're gonna throw yourself off a cliff if you do that. I'd like to experience it. Okay, you want to experience it? Go ahead, experience it. I'm telling you, don't put your finger in the fire. It's going to burn. It's my bucket list. I want to see if fire really burns my finger. Okay, it's going to burn your finger, but you're gonna be able to say you fulfilled your bucket list. So after the Chet of Adam Harishon, the tree looks beautiful. It's very desirous. I'm Mr. Guf, and Chava is Mrs. Guf. From that point forward, Guf, 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 and things snowball to Guf, 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 Guf. Shehusra Ashpo va'orah min hamin hanushi v'nisharu tevuim ach b'divrei hachumri hagas. And every generation since then has further invested itself and sunken itself into the gashmius that's available out there. Let's read Rav Friedlander's footnote 154 here. Hare Pelahu. Life is truly amazing if you believe in what we just said. If you actually believe that you have a physical body made from Ofer min ha'adama, that's its original component part, and you believe that you have a neshama, that's a chelek elikim mimal. If you believe in that, there's a pella going on here. There's just an absolutely amazing thing happening. Ketzad Adam sheyesh lo neshama gavoya. How is a person possible that a person that has such a high neshama, it's a chelek elikim mimal, it's a godly element. Yachol limtzei nachas ruach binyanim gashmi. How does the neshama get any enjoyment out of a convertible? How does it get an enjoyment out of all these things that people get themselves involved, the havolim, the silliness? The neshama is part of you. How does neshama get involved in this stuff? It's because a person allows his guf to expand and to become the boss. In that process, you're no longer thinking straight. Your seichel's not working straight. Your neshama, quote unquote, seichel is no longer operating straight. The gover hester panim, and the hester panim of the guf is now taken over the life. Umishtalit hachoshech ala adam, and darkness now rules that person. We say this many times. It happens now. It happens later. Olam hazeh, olam haba. The Rambam discussed this in Hilchos Tshuva, but it happens. And sometimes we see it. Many times, in fact, we see it. The Hollywood stars, these great people. One happened a few weeks ago. Wealth, cars, movies, this, future acting contracts. And you kill yourself. What do you kill yourself for? You're Mr. Guf, and you have all Guf. You should be happy. You made your bed and you said, I want to be Mr. Guf. And you got more money than you know what to do with. And more women, and more cars, and private jets, and yachts. V'chulu. You kill yourself. What are you killing yourself for? You want to be Guf and you got all the Guf. It's darkness. it overtakes the person. It gets darker and darker and darker until it's lights out. For those who, we may have not understood this analogy many years ago, when in order to turn on a light in the room, you flip the switch. And you had two choices. Your light in the room was on, the light in the room was off. Came dimmers. You can slowly, slowly put the light on and slowly, slowly turn the light off. And if you turn the light off ever, ever, ever so slowly, you can barely notice that the light is getting smaller. Barely notice. And at some point you realize it's getting a bit dark. And then it's dark. It's gone. This is the process, Loleno, of Aveva Goreres Aveva. Things are getting dimmer and dimmer, but you don't know it because you're in a state of choshech. You're in such darkness, you don't even know it's getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until it's lights out. And when it's lights out, it's suicide. Loyaling. So I'm not talking about this now from a chas v'sholom, a psychological vantage point. We're talking now about a person can mamish bring on himself through his skabrus hataiva, a person so immersed in the money and the yachts and everything else and the houses and the furniture and this and this and this and this and this, and he doesn't realize that by ignoring his neshama is slowly dimming. Va'azai kol she'ifosav ne'apochas l'chomrius, footnote 154. And then slowly but surely, a person's desires, the goals of his life, turn into chumrius. A person can have goals. I want to finish a Masechta by Rosh Hashanah. A person can have a goal by Rosh Hashanah. I want to be able to finish XYZ in my home. I want to have XYZ furniture for Rosh Hashanah, which is nice. Nice to have new furniture for Rosh Hashanah, no question. Beautiful. But what's the she'ifa? What's driving you inside? I want to learn Hilchas Tekiah Shofar for Rosh Hashanah. I want to learn Hilchas Tshuva for Rosh Hashanah. I want to understand the davening of Rosh Hashanah. And I'm going to do this every day because I want to do this. I want to be ready for Rosh Hashanah, and it's a passion. Or is the passion something else? Where the she'if? So the she'if is the darkness can turn the person inside out so that he kol she'ifoisav ne'pachas l'chumis. The she'if is to become chumis. There's a famous word. It's said as a word to make a point. In Parshas Vayetze, it says Yaakov ran away from his home because Esav wanted to kill him. And Yitzchak and Rivka said, Yaakov, go to Lavan, find yourself a wife. On the way going to Lavan, or actually on the way back, and then he went, okay, on the way to Lavan, he stops off at the Har HaBayis. And what happens when you're on the Har HaBayis? You have an amazing dream. Yaakov falls asleep on the Har HaBayis. And what does he see? A ladder from earth to heaven, and malachim are going up and down, and the Midrashim tell us about this unbelievable vision that he had. But it's unbelievable. He's left home, he's going towards Lavan, he's on the Har HaBayis, and he has no money. He has no money. What do we know happened to him on the way? Eliphaz ben Esav, Eliphaz, the son of Esav, chased Yaakov Avinu by order of his father, and he was told to kill Yaakov. Esav told his son Eliphaz, find him, kill him. And the Medrash tells us that Eliphaz found Yaakov, but he didn't want to kill him because Eliphaz still was a young boy, but he grew up while Yitzchak was still alive. This Eliphaz, who was the son of Esav, he still has a shtickle memory from the Zayda Yitzchak, and he can't bring himself to kill his uncle Yaakov. So he says, Uncle Yaakov, my tati told me to kill you. What should we do here? So Yaakov says to him, take all my money, take everything I have, and an ani is choshev kames. We're taught in the Torah that a poor person, when he's destitute completely, he's suffering the pain of death, lo yaleinu. So take everything I have, and you can go home and say that Yaakov is dead. So Yaakov is on the Harabayas. He's destitute. He's on the Harabayas. Falls asleep. What is he dreaming about while he's destitute on the Harabayas? Not dreaming about money. He's not dreaming about, Ribono Shalom, can you send me a couple of dollars? I'm going away from home. He's dreaming this unbelievable spiritual dream. There's a ladder that connects earth to heaven, and malachim are going up and down. That's a dream. 22 years later, Yaakov Avinu is getting ready to run away from Lavan's house. And he has a dream, if you remember, also in Parshas Vayetze. Yaakov Avinu is a pretty wealthy man by now. Remember, Lavan made this business with Yaakov Avinu, trying to cheat him, and Yaakov said, listen, I'm going to separate the spotted, the speckled, and and Yaakov became a very rich man. He's getting ready to leave Lavan's house, run away, and he has another dream, a second dream. And here he sees in his dream that the speckled and the spotted are doing this, and they're doing this, and they're doing this, and his cattle is increasing manyfold. He's becoming a very rich man. Some Svarim comment, there are two dreams in this parsha. At the beginning of the parsha, Yaakov is leaving his home and running away. He's destitute. He's on the Harabayas. And what's he dreaming about? Tremendous ruchnius things. And 22 years later, he has another dream. And what's he dreaming about? How much cattle he owns. How did the dreams change from such a spiritual dream to such a physical dream about wealth? And they say if you spend 22 years in Lavan's house, your dreams would change as well. A person in the wrong environment, even Yaakov Avinu, his dreams can change. His ambitions can change. And this is what the Choshech Guf does. It changes a person's ambitions. So instead of dreaming on the Harabayas about climbing the ladder to heaven, he's now dreaming about how much cattle he has. And this is a lesson we're getting from Yaakov Avinu. So this is what that darkness can do. And it's like a dimmer switch. Little. And all of a sudden you realize, hey, it's dark in here. What happened? It didn't just happen in a second. It's not an on-off switch. It's been dimming slowly. But you've been so involved in your guf, you haven't even noticed how dim it was getting until it finally got completely dark. Now, Rav Friedlander quotes Kamaimer HaRambam. This is a very famous quote from the Rambam. The Rambam, in his introduction to the first volume of Mishnah Yisroim, writes the follows: Binyan Haguf Hu Churban HaSeichel. You can try to memorize it. Say it 20 times and memorize it. It will help you during the day. Binyan Haguf Churban HaSeichel. The more you're going to build up your guf, your physical life, the more you're going to destroy your seichel. It doesn't work. A person cannot at the same time have these great ambitions for the physical and these great ambitions for the ruchnius. Something's got to give way. You cannot, of course, a person can have wealth and he can be a tremendous Talmud Chacham, but that means that the person has to have his Ikka focus, and his Ikka She'ifa is on Avodas Hashem. And he happens to work, and he, Baruch Hashem, is wealthy, but he's not sleeping, waking, and eating about how much more money can I make? How much more money can I make? He's living, sleeping, and waking. How much more learning can I get done today? That's his She'ifa. His life lives in the ruchnius, and he's wealthy. A person can live in the wealth, and he also learns. This is a very deep focal point for a person in the process of tshuva, which we'll be talking about not today. This is a focal point of tshuva. So much of tshuva gets lost in the idea that I talk Lashon Hara, I'm going to improve my Lashon Hara. I'm not going to talk so much Lashon Hara. I don't give enough tzedakah, I'm going to start giving enough tzedakah. I don't learn enough, so I'm going to make myself another Seder. These are particular things that people pick out, and we get a lot of this from the Goyim. What New Year's resolution are you going to make? Rosh Hashanah, the real tshuva Rosh Hashanah, is not what you're going to do and what you're going to stop doing. It's not about changing things you do. It's about changing who you are. The Sfarim are filled with this, talking about this. It's very important to change certain things you're doing. And it's very important to add good things to your life. But the reason you're going to add good things to your life, and the reason you're going to stop doing things you shouldn't be doing in your life, that's not where the goal is. Those are details. The big goal is I'm going to stop doing this and I'm going to start doing this because I want to change who I am. It's not I'm going to stop talking Lashon Hara for the sake of stopping to talk Lashon Hara because Lashon Hara is a terrible thing. And it is. But I'm going to start talking Lashon Hara because I'm going to change who I am. That's the process of tshuva. I want to change who I am. And then there are particulars you do. But that's the focal point. Who am I? So the Rambam says, Binyan Haguf, Churban HaSeichel. You should understand that the more you're going to focus on your guf, you're going to destroy your neshama and seichel. The more you're going to focus on the neshama and the seichel, the more subjugated your guf is going to be. And it's not possible that you're going to live in both worlds. I'm going to focus on this, I'm going to focus on this. It doesn't work in Ruchnius and Gashmias. And they used to, I don't know if they still do it, when people put wanted ads in a newspaper, sometimes they would say, multitasking necessary. What does multitasking mean? Multitasking means that a person can't focus on anything at one time. I want a multitasking. The boss calls you into the office and says, go to the cafe, get me lunch, sharpen the pencils, fix the printer, go out and buy toner for the printer, and multitask. Okay, so you start writing down a list, all the different things you need to do and all the things you need to go to. It's multitasking. But a person has a job where the boss says, today I want you to focus on this, and at the end of the day, I want to report about this. I want your brain moving in different places today. I need your absolute concentration on this. Now, absolute concentration on this means you're still going to eat, you're going to take your coffee break, you're going to go to the bathroom, you're going to say good morning and hello to your friend, you're going to be a normal human being, but your focus of the day, what's your focus of the day? Get that job done. You're not going to be multitasking. Multitasking in the world of a human being, in the world of Ruchnius, is a no-no. I'm multitasking. I'm in my guf, I'm in my neshama. The Rambam says, Binyan Haguf, Churban HaSeichel. The person has to put his 2 feet on one side of the line. Neshama, guf, introduce yourself to God on Rosh Hashanah and say, God, here I am. I'm a new person. I am Mr. Neshama. I am Mrs. Neshama. Okay, so there are all kinds of things that go with that. I'm not going to talk Lashon Hara, I'm going to get more stuck, and I'm going to let Allah Shaina get the Gewaltige Meises. But the Ikar here is, Rabbeinu Shalom, I'd like to reintroduce myself to you. I'm a new person. As I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, the Kotzker Rebbe said, it's brought down the Amud Emes, in Rosh Hashanah, that Oiske Mishav, there is. On Rosh Hashanah, the Rabbeinu Shalom is not judging all these details. He's judging who you are. Who are you introducing yourself to? What are you coming to front of the Rabbeinu Shalom? You say, Rabbeinu Shalom, I've been Mr. Guf till now. I'm doing certain things in my life to create Mr. Neshama. I'd like to introduce Mr. Neshama to you. That's what's happening. So we have to be able to understand what ambitions of Guf are, what ambitions of Neshama are, and begin to make the focal point of our life Neshama. And of course, there's guf. The whole Torah is full of guf. You get married, we have children, Baruch Hashem, we eat, we have Shabbos Su'udas, we have Yontif Su'udas, we have wonderful. God forbid we're not crazy Catholics. But the Baruch Hashem tells us how you live a life of guf with the neshama controlling that guf. Back to the last part of the footnote 154. A person that empowers the neshama over his guf, he's going to be zoicha to ha'ora, to the light, because Mr. Neshama is light. It was created from ha'oras panim. You will bring light into your life. A person's ambition is for chachma and for perfect himself. And this is what the Ramchal means when he says early generations did this and later generations did this. The early generations were working on themselves to try to reverse the chet of Adam Barishan, where they followed their eyeballs, they followed their guf, and they worked on following the neshama and being magrid, the seichel over the guf. And then later generations began to reverse that process, unfortunately, and decided to work on the guf more than the neshama. 3 lines on the bottom of page Samachay. This is the evil that came to the world after the chet of Adam. A certain amount of light was retracted and mitzumtzam, withdrawn from mankind, because that's a decision they made. They want guf, so you get less light. People became absorbed in the dense, thick guf and chumrius. Flipping to page 66, at Matan Torah, as we mentioned, at Matan Torah, Pasku Zu Amasam, the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Kuf Mem Vav says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu cleansed the Jewish people of the infection of Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, and they stood at Har Sinai on the level of Adam Arishan before the Chet, and therefore, Adam Arishan before the Chet, there was no death. And that's where the Jews were at that moment. They were at the level of Adam Arishan Kodem Achet. God did a tremendous chesed. He cleansed out that Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, and where there's no Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, there's no need for death. They messed that up again, and they ruined it with the Chet HaEgel. And once again, that Egel infected them, what was originally the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, and the world went back into darkness and fell into the trap of the Teva Hamadumim, the imaginations of the Guf. Footnote 155, Rav Friedlander. Ki oz chazru Yisrael l'madregasa shel Adam Arishan Kad Machet, and Har Sinai, the Jewish people, went back to the level of Adam Arishan before the sin. Upaska mehem zu amasa shel Nachash, and the poison of the Nachash, of the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, ceased. Is dakachu me'ashpos cheto shel Adam Arishan. They were purified from any influence that was left from the chet of Eitz Hadas. Ubatel mehem Yetzer Hara. They no longer had a Yetzer Hara. Upaska misa. There was no death. However, Nebuch, after the Chet HaEgel, Achein, the pasuk says in Tehillim, Achein ka'adam tumusan u'cha'achad hisarim tipayu. However, after the Chet HaEgel, David HaMelech says that the decree of death was once again placed on mankind. Mi'at Hashem, we keep on working on ourselves, especially in Elul and through Tshuva, be magbir, empower the neshama over the guf. There are the details, but the details are for a greater purpose. The greater purpose is to understand that the neshama came to this world to enter the guf, to control the guf and elevate the guf. And the way the neshama elevates the guf is through shmiras, Torah, and mitzvahs. And that's the tachlis of the neshama in this world, to elevate the guf. And that's what we focus on in Elul, working on ways in our lives that will elevate the guf. That's the goal. How do you get to the goal? Okay, you stop talking Lashon Hara and you learn more and you give more tzedakah. Those are the ways you get to the goal. But the goal is to be magbir the neshama on the guf and all the brachas that come with being magbir the neshama on the guf.